I've got some troubling news about England's royal family.
Meghan arrived expecting a difficult return, but nothing could have prepared her for what happened at the palace entrance. Before she could cross the threshold, royal protection officers stepped forward and stopped her. Then came the detail that transformed an awkward encounter into a family earthquake. The instruction had come from Catherine. Meghan was not simply delayed. She had been denied entry on the Princess of Wales's direct orders. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Meghan took one step forward, then stopped when a guard raised his hand. He spoke calmly, but the message was absolute. Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, was not permitted to enter. The royal protection officers, security personnel assigned to protect senior members of the family and control access to royal residences, were acting on a restriction circulated before her arrival. Meghan's face tightened. She asked whether there had been some mistake. The guard repeated that Catherine, Princess of Wales, had authorized the refusal. Inside the palace, Catherine received word that Meghan had reached the entrance and challenged the order. She did not celebrate. She did not smile. The princess remained composed, but tension sharpened as she was asked whether the instruction should be withdrawn. Catherine refused. She knew how humiliating the moment would feel, yet she believed allowing an unplanned encounter could reopen conflicts involving William, Harry, and a family strained by years of division. Meghan's confusion hardened into anger. She demanded to know whether King Charles III or Prince William had approved the restriction, believing one of them might reverse it. The answer unsettled her more. The access instruction did not depend on either man standing beside the guards. It had been entered into palace procedure in advance, meaning Catherine had prepared for the possibility that Meghan might arrive before anyone could negotiate the encounter. That detail changed everything. Meghan realized the refusal was not a sudden emotional reaction at the gate. Catherine had anticipated this moment. She had decided where the line would be drawn before Meghan ever approached the entrance. For Meghan, that made the humiliation feel personal. For Catherine, it was a boundary she believed had become necessary. The palace door remained closed, but the real question now moved deeper inside the family. What had happened between these two women that convinced Catherine Meghan's presence could no longer be treated as a visit? The guards had stopped Meghan physically, but the real confrontation had begun long before she reached that door, and understanding it meant looking at the two women now standing on opposite sides of the monarchy. This was never only about palace access. Behind that closed entrance stood years of mistrust, wounded pride, family loyalty, and competing ideas about what royal duty demanded. Meghan saw the refusal as a deliberate humiliation. Catherine saw it very differently, as a boundary that had finally become necessary. And between them stood Prince William and Prince Harry, two brothers whose fractured relationship ensured that every decision carried consequences far beyond one doorway. Meghan called Harry before the anger had fully settled. She told him being stopped by palace guards did not feel like security procedure. It felt like Catherine had personally decided who still belonged inside the family. Harry understood why those words cut so deeply. Since leaving working royal life, Meghan had believed old conflicts were constantly being used to define her place. The working royal household, the smaller group of family members who carry out official duties on behalf of the crown, represented everything she had once belonged to, and everything she now felt pushed away from. Catherine carried a different fear. Her priority was William, their children, and the fragile calm they had built after years of family conflict. She knew another uncontrolled confrontation could drag private wounds back into the center of royal life. When William found her alone after confirmation came that Meghan had been turned away, he studied her silence before asking quietly, "Are you certain?" Catherine paused. Then she answered that she was. William did not challenge her immediately. He knew his wife had not made the decision lightly. Yet he also understood what it could do to Harry. Catherine admitted that she hated the cruelty of Meghan standing outside while guards enforced her instruction. But she feared something worse, letting emotion erase every boundary simply because the person demanding entry was family. William could see that supporting Catherine might deepen his brother's anger, while overruling her could damage trust inside his own home. Harry's confusion soon became suspicion. Meghan told him she had believed the visit was informally cleared, meaning she expected enough private understanding existed for her arrival not to become a confrontation. That detail disturbed him. If she truly believed she could enter, then someone had either failed to warn them or had allowed Meghan to travel while knowing Catherine had already intervened. Harry began asking who knew about the restriction and when they knew it. The deeper problem now became impossible to ignore. Catherine's order was stronger than Meghan expected because it had not been created in panic at the entrance. It came from something deeper. William knew that. Harry was beginning to sense it, and Meghan, still wounded by the refusal, wanted to know why Catherine had gone from guarded caution to a direct command. Her certainty had not appeared overnight. It had been forged during one private encounter that changed Catherine's view of Meghan completely. Weeks before Meghan reached the palace gates, Catherine had agreed to something few people around her expected. One private conversation meant to lower the temperature between both sides. There were no cameras, no public announcement, and almost no aides. It was supposed to be a cautious first step toward peace. Instead, one exchange during that meeting convinced Catherine that the next encounter could not happen casually, and certainly not inside the palace. Harry had pushed for the meeting because he believed the conflict could never soften while both women communicated through distance, advisors, and old resentment. Catherine agreed reluctantly, while Prince William insisted the conversation remain small and personal. He feared that too many aides would turn a family discussion into an institutional negotiation, a formal palace-style exchange shaped by officials, rules, and positions instead of emotion. Meghan entered believing direct honesty might finally clear years of bitterness. Catherine entered hoping they could speak about what came next. Meghan changed the tone when she returned to decisions from the past. She pressed Catherine to acknowledge that earlier palace choices had harmed her, and argued that certain grievances needed to be corrected before real reconciliation could begin. Catherine listened, but her patience tightened each time the conversation returned to blame. To her, they were meant to discuss rebuilding trust. Instead, she felt she was being asked to accept responsibility for an entire history she did not believe could be settled in one private room. Catherine finally pushed her chair back. She told Meghan they could not repair anything if every new conversation became another trial of the past. Meghan did not answer immediately. She had expected warmth, or at least recognition of what she believed she had suffered. Instead, she heard distance. In her mind, Catherine was not simply refusing an apology. The future queen was deciding which version of the family story would be accepted, and which one would be pushed aside. William heard about the exchange afterward, in a private conversation with his wife. Catherine told him any future meeting had to be formally arranged, with clear expectations established before Meghan entered another royal residence. William understood why. Their children, their household, and his relationship with Harry had already carried the weight of repeated conflict. Another uncontrolled encounter could reopen every wound at once. Then another message arrived. Meghan appeared ready to return directly for further discussion, and Catherine immediately felt the earlier boundary had not been understood. That was the point of no return. She made the decision she knew would look severe from outside. No unplanned access, no emotional pressure at the door, and no assumption that family connection automatically meant entry. That unfinished sentence followed both women all the way to the palace gates, and once Meghan was stopped, the conversation they had avoided became unavoidable. Being refused entry was humiliating, Learning Catherine had personally authorized it made Meghan furious. Instead of leaving immediately, she demanded that the Princess of Wales come downstairs and explain the decision herself. The message traveled inward through palace staff until it reached Catherine. For several tense minutes, neither woman moved. Then Catherine made a choice that turned a security incident into a direct family confrontation. She agreed to speak with Meghan face to face. Meghan refused to let the guards turn this into a simple security matter. To her, Catherine's personal involvement had changed everything. The controlled entrance area, the secured space where access is checked before someone moves deeper into a royal residence, suddenly became the setting for a family conflict years in the making. Meghan wanted an answer from the woman who had ordered the restriction, not another explanation from an officer standing between them. Catherine knew what stepping forward could unleash. Staying inside might make her look afraid, but appearing in person could create exactly the confrontation she had tried to prevent. Still, she came down. Meghan did not waste time. She looked directly at Catherine and asked, "Did you tell them to stop me?" Catherine did not turn toward the guards. She did not ask an aide to speak for her. She answered simply, "Yes." The word landed hard. Meghan demanded to know why Catherine believed she had the right to exclude her from a family residence. The princess answered that this was no longer about status, old titles, or who had once belonged where. It was about trust. She told Meghan that trust could not be demanded at a doorway after earlier boundaries had been ignored. Meghan pushed back, saying she believed Harry had received enough encouragement from the family to make the visit acceptable. Catherine immediately understood what that meant. If Harry had truly believed the visit would be tolerated, then something had gone badly wrong between him and William. Meghan insisted she had not arrived expecting a confrontation. Catherine replied that this was precisely why the restriction had been prepared before that day. She feared an unexpected meeting could pull William and their children into another emotional crisis before anyone had agreed on the terms. Meghan's anger shifted. The most painful realization was no longer that she had been stopped. It was that Catherine had expected the possibility of her arrival and had acted in advance. This was not panic. It was preparation. That single answer stripped away every excuse and every layer of protocol, exposing the deeper reality. Catherine now had enough authority inside the palace to make that yes matter. The most shocking part of the encounter was not Meghan's anger. It was that Catherine's instruction had been followed without hesitation. The woman once treated primarily as William's wife was now operating from a position of unmistakable influence within the royal household. But that authority was not absolute, and it had not appeared suddenly. It rested on something more personal: William's trust, Charles's awareness, and Catherine's growing responsibility for protecting the monarchy's future. William received the call and listened without interrupting. The message was simple. Meghan had challenged the restriction, Catherine had faced her directly, and the guards were still holding the line. Palace security, the system controlling who can enter protected royal spaces and under what conditions, was not designed to settle family arguments. Once an authorized access instruction had been entered, officers were expected to follow it unless someone with the power to change it intervened. Catherine knew what that meant. Her influence had grown because decisions involving William, their children, and the private spaces connected to their household increasingly demanded her direct involvement. The future king could not protect his family while treating his wife as a spectator. Yet that authority carried a painful price. William set the phone down and told her he would support the decision, then asked quietly whether she understood what it might cost with Harry. The prince already knew the answer. Supporting Catherine could deepen his brother's belief that the family had chosen sides. But overruling her after she had drawn a boundary would damage something closer to home: trust inside his marriage. Catherine did not pretend the choice was easy. She admitted that Meghan's humiliation troubled her, but she refused to act as though avoiding immediate discomfort mattered more than preventing another uncontrolled family confrontation. Charles faced the same dilemma from a different position. The king was disturbed that Meghan had been stopped so publicly, yet he was equally concerned that an unexpected visit could pull William, Catherine, Harry, and the children back into open conflict. In a private conversation recorded in a palace account of the incident, the monarch chose not to overturn the restriction. His silence carried weight. Catherine's decision would stand unless she changed it herself. William then made his own position unmistakable. He would not cancel the instruction simply because Meghan had protested at the entrance. Catherine heard the words, but she also understood their consequence. The family had moved beyond a disagreement between two women. Lines of loyalty were hardening, and Harry was about to discover the most painful part of all. Neither his father nor his brother intended to rescue Meghan from what had just happened. The cost became clear, almost immediately, because outside the palace, Meghan was no longer asking to enter. She was preparing to leave. There comes a moment in every confrontation when anger loses its energy, and something colder replaces it. For Meghan, that moment arrived when it became clear nobody inside was reversing the decision. Catherine had stood firm. William had supported her. Charles had declined to intervene. The palace door remained closed, and suddenly Meghan was not fighting to get inside anymore. She was deciding what walking away would mean for Harry, for herself, and for any future relationship with the family. Meghan stopped challenging the guards because she understood what another argument would achieve. Nothing. Continuing would only deepen the humiliation and give the palace more reason to defend the restriction. The royal household, the network of staff and offices supporting senior members of the family, had already treated Catherine's instruction as valid. Meghan could protest, but she could not force the door open without turning a painful family dispute into something far more damaging. Meghan entered her vehicle, closed the door, and sat in silence before calling Harry. Her first words were not angry. She came down herself. Harry immediately understood the weight of that sentence. Catherine had not hidden behind officials. She had personally confirmed the order. His disbelief hardened when Meghan added that William had supported the decision and Charles had chosen not to overturn it. Harry's anger rose fast. He wanted to call his brother immediately and demand an explanation. Meghan stopped him. She told him she would not become the reason another family battle exploded in public. Her humiliation was already enough. Turning it into a confrontation between Harry and William would only make the moment bigger, harsher, and harder to repair. Catherine was struggling too. After returning inside, she tried to hold the same calm she had shown at the entrance. But William could see the strain. Her hands were tense. Her voice softened. The princess admitted that standing firm did not make the decision painless. She had watched Meghan realize the door would remain closed, and that image stayed with her. William asked whether the restriction was permanent. Catherine answered carefully, no. She would reconsider access if a future meeting was arranged clearly, privately, and with everyone knowing the terms before arrival. That mattered. The order was not exile. It was a boundary, and boundaries could change if trust changed first. Harry soon heard the same possibility through a private conversation with Meghan. His anger did not disappear, but it shifted. For the first time, there was something to act on besides outrage. He could attack the decision publicly, or he could speak directly to William without advisors, staff, or intermediaries standing between them. Those words changed Harry's response, because for the first time, he understood that this was not faceless palace machinery. It was personal, and only a personal conversation could break the deadlock. For years, almost every dispute between William and Harry had been surrounded by advisors, statements, recollections, and competing loyalties. This time, the brothers stripped all of that away. No aides, no formal agenda, no Catherine or Meghan sitting beside them. Harry called William directly and asked one question: had he truly supported the order? William said yes. What followed was not reconciliation, but it was the most honest conversation either brother had risked in a long time. Harry needed to know whether Catherine had acted alone or whether his brother shared the belief that Meghan should have been stopped. William agreed to speak, because another palace message would only make the distance worse. A formal agenda, a planned list of subjects used to control an official discussion, had no place in this call. The prince knew Harry was not asking for procedure. He was asking whether his own brother had chosen the boundary too. Harry did not hide the hurt. He told William that Meghan being turned away felt like proof the family had already decided she would always remain outside, no matter what she did next. The pain was personal, because Meghan had once lived inside that system, carried royal duties, and built family ties there. Harry believed the closed door had turned years of tension into something painfully physical. William answered with equal force. He told his brother that boundaries were not revenge. His first responsibility was Catherine and their children, and he would not allow another unplanned confrontation to pull them into a crisis they had not chosen. Harry pushed back, but the future king refused to soften the point, simply to end the argument. Then Harry admitted something that changed the conversation. Meghan's arrival had been more spontaneous than William had been led to believe. She believed enough informal encouragement existed to make the visit acceptable, but there had been no clear final agreement. The prince went quiet. That admission weakened the idea that Catherine had suddenly blocked a fully approved visit. A long silence followed. Harry finally asked whether Catherine hated Meghan. William answered that this was not about hate. It was about whether either side could still respect a boundary after years of mistrust. Then he revealed something Harry had not expected. Catherine was willing to consider a future private meeting if the terms were agreed beforehand. Harry did not call that forgiveness, and William did not call it peace. But both men recognized the difference between permanent exile and a controlled second chance. They agreed on one immediate step. Neither side would launch a retaliatory public attack, while the family decided how the incident would be explained. The brothers ended the call without repairing their relationship, but their decision not to escalate meant the next judgment would come from somewhere neither could control: the public. By the time the family had begun calming the private crisis, the outside world had already transformed it into something much larger. The story was no longer simply that Meghan had visited the palace. It was that guards had stopped her, Catherine had confirmed the order, and Meghan had left without entering. Within hours, one moment became symbolic of the entire royal feud. A woman, once inside the institution, standing beyond a boundary she could no longer cross freely. Broadcasters moved quickly, because the incident carried something stronger than another royal disagreement. It had a clear image, a clear decision, and two women representing opposite sides of a broken relationship. The Sussexes, the common shorthand for Harry and Meghan as the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, were now being discussed against the Wales household, meaning William, Catherine, and the family unit around them. That contrast mattered, because the dispute was no longer hidden inside private conversations. It had reached the palace entrance. Meghan's supporters reacted with anger. They saw the refusal as unnecessary humiliation and argued that no family dispute should end with one woman being physically prevented from entering while the world watched. Catherine's supporters saw something else. To them, she had finally refused to let emotional pressure override the boundaries around her home, William, and their children. The same moment created sympathy on one side and admiration on the other. Catherine became the center of the debate, when confirmation spread that she had personally faced Meghan and stood by the decision. She had not sent an aide to absorb the anger. She had not disappeared behind palace procedure. Meghan had asked whether Catherine ordered the restriction. and the princess had answered yes. That detail made the story more powerful, because it removed the idea of a faceless institution making the choice. Outside the gates, the public reaction became impossible to ignore. Visitors stopped as live reports played across phones, while cameras remained fixed on the entrance long after Meghan's vehicle had left. One major evening broadcast described it as the day royal reconciliation met a locked door. The phrase spread because it captured exactly what people felt. Years of family tension had suddenly been reduced to one closed threshold. Palace officials tried to lower the temperature. They stressed that access to private royal areas required prior coordination and authorization, meaning family connection alone did not guarantee unrestricted entry. Yet both Meghan and Catherine refused to launch personal attacks afterward. That restraint mattered. Neither woman turned the moment into an immediate war of statements. Public opinion could argue over winners and losers, but inside the family, a quieter verdict was already forming, and it would define what this confrontation truly meant. In the end, nobody truly won at the palace gates. Meghan left hurt. Catherine remained shaken. Harry was reminded how far he had drifted from his brother, while William discovered that protecting his immediate family could deepen wounds elsewhere. Yet the confrontation accomplished something years of carefully managed silence had failed to achieve. It forced everyone involved to acknowledge the new reality. Royal reconciliation could no longer exist without boundaries, honesty, and consequences. Catherine did not withdraw the principle behind her decision. She still believed the boundary had been necessary, but she also made clear that Meghan was not permanently forbidden from every future family meeting. Any return would need to be arranged in advance, with expectations understood before anyone reached a royal residence. A royal residence, a home or official property used by members of the monarchy, could no longer become the setting for another surprise confrontation. That mattered because the family had finally learned that unclear expectations were feeding the conflict. Meghan accepted a painful truth of her own. The old assumptions were gone. She could not return to royal spaces as though nothing had changed since she and Harry stepped away from working royal life. She told him she would never again arrive without knowing exactly where she stood. Harry understood what she meant. The rejection had wounded her, but the uncertainty surrounding it had hurt even more. Catherine carried a different burden. Later, she sat with William and asked whether she had gone too far. The prince did not give her an easy answer. He told her the way it happened had been painful, but the boundary itself was necessary. She understood then that authority was not the same as victory. Sometimes protecting one part of a family could wound another, even when punishment was never the goal. William and Harry also reached a quieter agreement through their private conversation. Future family contact would begin away from palace entrances, formal pressure, and public expectation. They would speak first. They would establish what was agreed. Only then would the next meeting happen. Meghan chose not to return that day, and Catherine did not pursue her. That distance gave both women something the confrontation had almost taken away: control over what happened next. And that became the lasting meaning of the closed palace door. Not exile, not triumph, but the end of ambiguity. Catherine drew a boundary. Meghan was forced to confront it. Harry and William were forced to speak directly. The monarchy emerged colder, but clearer. From that moment forward, every path back would have to begin with trust before anyone crossed the threshold. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.